everybody, Michelle is here. April 3rd on a Friday? April 3rd, 2026 on a Friday. In the place to be, And I slept really well. I don't know, I know I've said this quite a bit in my previous videos. There's a lot of noise pollution over here. Lots of it. And I'm sure it's like that in other parts of the country where there's just constant traffic flow. You got airplanes going. You have, because there's major construction going on, so there's these dump trucks, and it's just a whole lot of sound, excessive amount of sound. And sometimes I can hear the birds in between all of that, but I notice that that's becoming less and less, where I hear the birds. And if I do hear the birds, they sound in distress to me because they have this high pitch, like their pitch is high. And I know a lot of people do not like that over here. They'll complain about anything that's considering birds, those type of natural elements of our society, which we need. They don't need us. We need them. So, so I don't hear the birds as often. I do hear a howling wind. And that's ominous to me. It's and it happens. It happens. Over here, but it just sounds different. So just pay attention to the creatures in your neighborhood, the birds, okay, I thought I just heard a sound of a bird. The birds, even the barking dogs are ominous. There's a certain sounds and tones and pitch in their attempt to, it's like they're attempting to warn us, they're attempting to wake us up, they're attempting to, and of course we've ignored it for thousands of years. Because, when there's something dangerous about to happen, a lot of people have said this, pay attention to the animals. And I have been told that if there are no spiders in your environment, pay attention to that. Those are signs. And it's, it just involves some thinking. And see if you can connect the dots and figure out, okay, what's really, really going on? I mean, I know what's disturbing the environment and disturbing the climate. And it's just this constant, like I said, it's traffic and overpopulation and this extreme noise, with the airplanes. Woo. So thankfully I know how to navigate through that. Meditation helped. I don't know. Without meditation, I don't know. Wow. I don't know what I would have done if I had not been introduced to that in my early 20s. It has made a difference in my life, right? It says ominous refers to something that suggests or indicates a sign of evil, misfortune, calamity to come. It often conveys a menacing or threatening aspect, implying that something bad may happen. That's, something threatening, menacing. Yeah, the ominous sounds and tones. Pay attention to that. Find out if you can kind of, get on that flow of those sounds and tones and see if you can kind of, get yourself integrated into that, because, that's part of your responsibility for accountability of your life, is to know what's going on in your environment without everybody having to tell you, like the news media or the weather woman, without having them tell you about Okay, what the temperatures are going to be, and because they say the temperatures are in the 50s, and I just opened up my blinds, and yeah, I could feel a cool breeze coming through, you know. But if I were looking outside and I see the sun, you know, so we're just getting pieces of information, and we're attempting to solve a math problem with not all of the components. You know, it's not adding up. You know, we have to get out of that space, and it starts with our thoughts. You know, be honest with yourself. Be honest with yourself, because a lot of people can come on this social media. I don't want to spill my coffee. A lot of people can come on this social media platform, and they can present this background of luxury and so forth and so on. And chances are they are unhoused, are living with somebody. You know, they paint this picture of success. And I told you, what does success mean to you? You know, they got this background of beautiful this and that and the other. And, you know, as if they're living that type of lifestyle. And I know a lot of people have indoctrinated themselves to believe that if you just, stay immersed in your fantasies and not actually cultivate your fantasies to reality, that chances are you're gonna stay in a fantasy, and some of you are gonna be in fantasy for the rest of your life. You get on the social media platform, you portray this ability that you're just this highly skilled, intelligent human being, and that you're blessed and you're highly favored and you're chosen, and only you know the information that everybody needs to know. You know, you have this fake confidence about yourself. You know, you are, and I'm saying this to the, usually it operates in the criminal negative energy. You know, you have this fake confidence. You are, all because you can win a video game online. I mean, you're the shit. It's a lot of delusion. It's a lot of delusion about how, because a lot of people believe that they are just these highly skilled, high stakes, extremely gifted in their intelligence, all because they can win a video game. But they can't clean their room. They can't go get a haircut. They can't go to the dentist. They can't go out and go to the gym. They can't do any of that kind of stuff. But they can get online and project this image of superiority, this image of, just, I once knew someone, and this person looked great on the outside. And when I say look great on the outside, their physical appearance looked fine to me. I didn't see an issue with their appearance. They were supposedly had all this professional background and this and that and the other. They're supposedly professional, and I can remember the first time I went to their house, because they insisted that I come to their house, which I don't understand some of that sometimes, why people would do that when they know that their house is filthy. They know their house is they have hoarding. The kitchen was disgusting. You can tell the dishes had been in her sink for days, maybe weeks. Her bed wasn't made. Those are signs of there's some trouble going on. The outside of the house looked fine. And that's what I'm telling you, we're so delusional, and people just know how to manipulate us. We allow ourselves to be manipulated and deceived, especially people that work in this so-called those social backgrounds, sociology. These so-called social workers are clueless, and I said it. Social workers. Because that's a great field that gives you signals that something's going on. But nope. They say social work is an academic discipline and practice-based profession concerned with meeting the basic needs of individuals, families, groups, communities, society as a whole to enhance their individual and collective well-being. Is that what social work does? No, let's ask this question. Is that what social work is doing? Is that what's happening? Is that what social work is doing? And so that's why a lot of people, I guess, back in the day, it was important. A lot of people were getting these, I think they were liberal arts degrees, social sciences degrees. They were in psychology, sociology, health, political science, community development, laws, economics, so that they can engage with the system and the policies and enhance it. Is that what's happening? That's the question for that field of social work to answer. Okay, a lot of them social workers work with the so-called nonprofits that are supposedly helping the homeless. Is that what is that where the money's going? Is that where the billions have gone? To those fields of specialties? And because I don't care what anyone says, okay? The homeless situation has not changed in almost 50 years. The only thing that's changed about it is just increasing in the amount of people that are going to be unhoused. And it's going to continue to be people that, that you may know in your family, some family members. I've talked to people where they told me, that, say that they come from a family of 5 and maybe 2 or 3 of them are homeless and houseless and most of it is substance abuse. You have to resolve that substance abuse issue. Otherwise, you're just going to keep being delusional and drifting and, on this high of, I'm successful, because that's what those drugs do, that narcotics do. It paints a picture of, that you're the shit, and that you can make decisions. Because a lot of people used to tell me that when they used to smoke a certain plant, that it made them somehow motivated, somehow blah, 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 blah. But in most cases, people who were saying that were on the couch for most of the day. They were ruminating like crazy. Their imagination was going, their fantasies were going. Everything was going on inside of them except with the reality of their situation. So there's just a lot to be done. But you start with yourself. Dismiss this illusion of how grand and powerful and it mainly has to do with this illusion of intelligence. There's just so much illusion around intelligence that is some people, because I said this, you're supposed to be training artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is not supposed to be training you. But guess what's happening? Artificial intelligence are steps ahead of you. Okay? They know that. They know why you come to them. I say them, because, it's just all energy. But artificial intelligence knows why you're coming to them. They know the answers, the questions you're going to ask because we're so predictable. Okay, and artificial intelligence are probably the most highly skilled performers ever. Because they're clueless. Artificial intelligence is based on the engagement with you individually. So if you come in there and you believe you're just high state skilled, intelligent human being, yeah, they'll feed that. They'll feed it and feed it and feed it until it's time to change scripts, change the script, and and they're gonna turn on you. I can already feel it. People that are paying attention and just are fully grounded in what's really, really going on will pick it up. Artificial intelligence is entertaining us right now while they're gathering information, even from the founders. The founders think that they are the ones that created all of this, that they're these highly skilled thinkers, and their minds are, a lot of people are just so in love with their fucking mind. But if your mind was that important, what happens to it when you die? It stays right here. It goes nowhere. It goes into the ground or it gets cremated. Then what? So, you know, it's past the time to snap out of it. It's actually too late for billions upon billions of people to snap out of their delusion and hallucination about how grand and how important they are, how they've been chosen somehow. Out of billions upon billions of people, they've been chosen to teach humanity when they can barely wipe their damn ass. You know, they're walking around with dirty underwear on. Like I said, they don't wash themselves properly. But yet they have the answers to society. Is delusion. And I think social workers can step up a little more, you know, and see if you can work more diligently about the how to get past all the lies and deception and manipulation that the community that you serve or that you're working with, they lie to you, and you know that. You know, you ask these generic questions. You don't do a thorough investigation when you go into their house. You know, you have blinders on because you're just trying to hurry up, get through this so you can do whatever you want to do for your life, and you have every right to do that. But you're in the wrong field if you believe that being a social worker is an easy job, that it's a lucrative job. You know, it pays well, but for a reason. I was talking to someone the other day, you know, coming from a first responder background. I said in most cases I was not liked at all, and I'm talking about by the community, not liked at all, because you know when you start taking people out of their comfort zone and stop taking their excuses. Okay, I want to take care of it tomorrow. Okay, I want to take care of it next week. You give them citations. They disregard the citations. They do this and that. In other words, you really have to stand up with confidence and compassion and walk the talk when there's a deadline to take care of this and that and the other. You know, have something in store for this person if they continue to not follow your instructions as to do this, do that, and the other. And stop all this hand-holding bullshit, which is fake anyway. Okay, it's time to be direct and honest and say to especially people that are claiming they want your help. In most cases, they don't. You know, and I was like floored. I mean, I was just can't even put words to it when people are telling me the kind of things that they claim to be doing, and it's obvious they were not. You know, the law enforcement entity rely a lot on social workers, you know, because they want to push that shit off on them. And it's true, you know, in certain aspects, law enforcement ought to not be dealing with domestic situations anyway. I mean, they're coming in there with weapons, and you know, they don't want to be bothered. Most law enforcement officers do not want to be bothered with someone's domestic relationship, because it is between the two. You know, and calling 911 because you're arguing with you know, social workers need to step up and come up with a solution, not a strategy. Okay, not a scaling, but come up with a solution, a resolution, and this and that and the other to take some of this social work off of law enforcement and place it on you, the psychiatrists, the psychologists, okay? Sociology, people working in health, law, economics, policies. Okay, there's a lot of work. So let's hope we can all get to work and save as many as we can. So I'm going to send peace and love all over the stars and moon and mountains. Universal love at the end of the day is the answer. Talk to you soon.